Dear patient partners, I warmly congratulate you for the excellent work you are doing to consolidate the rule of law in the Portuguese-speaking African countries and Timor-Leste. And I thank you for this opportunity to share with you some of the most important EU justice policy and cooperation initiatives which are interesting for the PACHET project. The rule of law is a main priority for the European Union, but it continues to hit the headlines in Europe for the wrong reasons. Challenges to the rule of law in some EU member states show that we can never take it for granted. That is why the Commission has developed a rule of law toolbox to address these challenges. The toolbox includes an annual rule of law report which aims at preventing problems from emerging or deepening. It provides a basis for member states to understand the rule of law situation across the European Union, to learn from each other by sharing best practices, and encourage an open, honest debate. In July this year, we published the second edition of the report, and next year it will include specific recommendations for member states. When the rule of law concerns arise in the European Union, dialogue always comes first. When this does not lead to the right results and the situation becomes critical, the Commission can launch infringement proceedings. We now have a conditionality mechanism in force since 1st of January this year, linking respect for the rule of law to access to EU funds. Since June this year, the new European Public Prosecutor's Office is there to protect the EU budget from fraud, corruption, money laundering, and organized crime. The European Public Prosecutor Office is already investigating more than 350 cases. Lastly, we have the Article 7 procedure, the last resort for resolving a crisis when no solution is found within the rule of law framework. The rule of law is also a guiding principle for the Union's international action. This is reflected in the EU's Global Europe regulation. The regulation stipulates that the Union should use an integrated approach to enhance partnerships, promote policy dialogue, and facilitate collective responses to challenges of global concern. EU action should support the Union's fundamental interests, principles, and values in all their aspects, and it should comply with and promote the principles of respect for the rule of law and for international law, including in respect of international humanitarian and human rights law. Our external rule of law policy must be consistent with our internal rule of law policy. In particular, the Union encourages accession countries and Eastern Partnership countries to make rule of law reforms in line with European standards. This means fully ensuring the independence of the judiciary and respect for fundamental rights, and demonstrating an effective fight against corruption and organized crime. However, the political will for real change is often lacking. Political dialogue and technical assistance are not enough to ensure a real transformation of politicized justice systems into a fair and independent service for citizens. Therefore, we are including more and more conditionality elements in our external rule of law policy. Indeed, rule of law conditionality has become a key element in the EU's recently adopted instruments providing financial support in third countries. An effective system of conditionality is closely linked with the need for a better measurement of justice reform results. Because we can only link financial assistance to progress toward justice reform when we are really able to measure the results rather than just the process itself. Last December, the Commission adopted the European Judicial Training Strategy. Our success in facing up to the challenges to the rule of law depends also on having well-informed and well-trained legal practitioners to ensure the current application of the rule of law. Our strategy stipulates that well-trained justice professionals play an essential role in upholding the rule of law with the principle of judicial independence at the center. EU judicial training extends also beyond the European Union to prioritize work on promoting democracy, the rule of law, and respect for human rights. In fact, we discussed training activities of the PASHIT project at the recent conference Modernizing EU Justice Systems by Boosting Training of Justice Professionals. And these activities are a good example of how further synergies should be sought with EU-funded judicial training initiatives to strengthen these fundamental pillars of modern state. EU funding dedicated to promoting Union values of democracy, rule of law, and fundamental rights in the EU amounts to 1.8 billion for 2021 to 2027, making it the largest ever. This funding is available to Member States under two recently adopted programs, the Justice Programme and the Citizens' Equality, Rights and Values Programme. The Justice Programme focuses on judicial cooperation, judicial training, and facilitating access to justice. It aims at developing a European area of justice based on the independence of the judiciary, the respect of the rule of law, with mutual recognition and mutual trust among Member States. The Citizens' Equality, Rights and Values Programme supports civil society organizations on European, national and local level. It also supports equality bodies, national authorities and other stakeholders to fight racism and gender-based violence to promote equality, the rule of law and citizens' participation in democracy. Both programs are also open to third countries, providing those countries have signed a specific agreement covering the participation of the third country to any Union programs. But due to the limited budget of the Justice and the Serve program, the focus will be on the situation in the European Union. And participation of third countries cannot be widespread, but limited and focused. For instance, to countries that are candidate countries and potential EU accession candidate countries. On the other hand, while other third countries cannot have a financial contribution, they can participate in the funded projects by sharing practices, experiences, and networking. The main financial instrument for the EU's external action is the Neighbourhood Development and International Cooperation Instrument Global Europe. Overall, it allocates almost 80 billion euros to external action. It represents an increase of over 10% of the previous cycle. The instrument is organized around three key pillars: geographical, thematic, and rapid response. The thematic programs will fund actions linked to, for instance, human rights and democracy, civil society, and stability and peace. The rapid response component is dedicated to financing the quick response capacity for crisis management, conflict prevention, and peace building. And the geographical component focuses on good governance, inclusive growth, the fight against inequality, and the rule of law, among others. Before concluding, I want to turn back to the European Public Prosecutor Office, which, in a short time, has achieved impressive results. I believe there is also potential here for cooperation with third countries. Corruption, money laundering, and organized crime know no borders. The trail often leads to jurisdictions in our immediate vicinity or even far away. So, it will be paramount for the EPPO to establish and maintain close relations with the competent authorities of third countries, including those that participate in PASHIT. An efficient cooperation between the European Public Prosecutor Office and third countries will not only lead to a better protection of the Union budget, it will also contribute to a stronger fight against cross-border criminal phenomena and, eventually, to the enhancement of the rule of law within and beyond the European Union. Dear patient partners, capacity building in the field of justice is what the PASHIT project does so well. By promoting knowledge, raising awareness, and bringing together policymakers and legal professionals in the Portuguese-speaking countries in Africa, the project builds their capacity to defend the rule of law in those areas. Like the European Public Prosecutor Office, it is an essential tool for preventing and fighting against corruption, money laundering, and organized crime. It is an impressive initiative which has my full support. Europe needs strong partnerships across the world that invest in democracy and human rights. I thank the PASHIT partners again for your excellent work, and I wish you success with all your future endeavors.